Alright, so hi class. So this is our third and final video that explains how to use LoadRunner. So in the first video, I showed you guys how to use LoadRunner Virtual User Generator. And this is essentially where we record the transaction for one user. Then I showed you guys how to use the LoadRunner controller, basically where we set up we use the same script from VUGen, but we define the number of load or the number of users. A couple of things we also do in controller. We define how we want those users to be initialized. Then lastly, we design or we set how long you want the test to go for. Okay. Now the final bit I want to show you is what we call LoadRunner Analyzer. And from the name of this, you can tell this is where we compile the results and we start doing some measurement. And let's get going. So I'll show you a couple of things you always want to measure while you're doing your performance test. The first one you want to measure is what we call the response time. And the other one you want to measure is what we call the TPS, which is how many transactions happened between the server and the client within 1 second. Okay. Alright, so going into your controller and you click on results and you say analyze the results. So we'll click on analyze results and this will automatically open up analysis. So it's actually called, it's called LoadRunner Analysis. Let me go back and change that for you guys. It's called analysis. Okay. So it's the last one and it's the blue one. They all have different colors. And you can see right now what it's doing is it's bringing in the results from controller and you will have this beautiful results shown to you. Now, the first thing you want to look at is your analysis summary. This tells you a lot about the test. The first thing it tells me was the test was ran by 50 users. The next thing here that is exciting to me is the response time. Now you can see that my script had 2 transactions. The first transaction was my login and the next transaction is my logout. Now you can see the average time in seconds that it took. So it took 50 users an average time of 3.2 seconds to log in. It took 50 users an average time of 0.33 seconds to log out. Now you're getting some measurement. And I think this makes sense, right? Because login takes longer because I've got to put in my username, password, push the login button, right? But sign up is very quick. You just sign off and close the browser. So I think this is actually reasonable. So this is your response time. Now it's telling you they ran the whole thing 400 times. You know, for 50 users each running 2 transactions for a duration of 2 minutes or 3 minutes, they ran 400 transactions. Good news was the server did not fail any of them, meaning every request was returned successfully. So we have all passes. This is in percentage, so it's telling you you have 100% passed. Okay, so that's the first thing we can get out from the summary. Now let's get deeper. You know, we want to measure your TPS, which is your transaction per second. Now to get that, you have to right click on the graph and you say add new item. So I can say add a new graph and I'll go into my transactions and I'll say give me the transaction per second, and I'll say open up the graph and you see this beautiful graph. So this is the TPS, and once again we're looking at the average. So for every second, there was 0.5 transaction being made. So meaning half a transaction. So in my mind now, I think um, there was 0.5, yeah, 0.5 transaction happening every second, which makes sense, right? We have 60 seconds, so for 60 seconds, there are probably, you can count how many transactions are being sent back and forth. So this is your TPS, and you can look at the graph as well. So you can see that we started from a very high TPS. The longer we went, TPS was fairly stable. Okay, so that's how you measure your TPS. Now there are other many graphs in there. Sometimes some other companies could tell you, can you show us, this type of graph, that type of graph? All you have to do is just, click on it, and you can see many other types of graphs. LoadRunner does a very beautiful job. He actually explains to you what the graph is. So if there's a graph you don't know exactly what it is, just click on the name and you can see what the graph does. Okay, so that's how you analyze your results. Um, it's also very popular. Some companies like to know the hits per second, meaning how many times will the server getting hit per second. The throughput is data. So you want to know how much data was sent from the client to the server and how much data was sent back as well, between the client and the server. Sometimes you want to know maybe how many retries, if something failed and there had to be a retrial, you can measure it here as well. But essentially, this is where you go to get any graph your company is asking for. But the most popular ones are the number of users, your TPS, and your response time. Okay, so now that we've done that, you can also give this report to a manager. You can print it out and give it to your business team. Qt LoadRunner has a very beautiful report. Um, so I can say display the report in an HTML, see? And I can save the HTML file and I can give it out to my colleagues. So let's do some measurement. Let's put it down so everyone sees it. So I can set a new table. So I can say my load, my RT, which is always in seconds or milliseconds. You can call it seconds. And I can say my TPS. So my load is 50, we know that. My RT, go back into your summary, for so my RT for transaction 1 was 3.2 seconds. So I can come into my table and I can say tran 1, right? And my 3.2 seconds. Okay, so I can say 3.2 seconds. And my tran 2 was 0.3 seconds. So that was very fast, right? 50 users. And the TPS, so TPS, I'm going to my TPS. For the first one was 0.53, or 0.5. Okay, so 0.5. And this one is also the same, 0.5. Okay. All right. So that's what you present to your team at the end of your presentation, at the end of your test. As I said, guys, performance testing is a highly skilled job that we actually have some QAs. This is all they do. This is their entire career. But at this stage, what you guys should be able to do is get the requirements document for any performance test, and you should be able to use LoadRunner to run the test. And you should be able to use LoadRunner to get the test result and pass the test result on to the team. So also, if you have a failure, this is a pass. So it was straightforward. If you have a failure as well, then you're gonna put the number of load. You're gonna put when it failed. So you're gonna say, well, for 50 users, running at 3 minutes, you put all your conditions in there, and you tell them that this is what caused the failure to happen. Okay, so that's how we present performance test results. So this is the end of LoadRunner. As I said, guys, please keep practicing. Practice makes perfect. The more you practice this, the more it sticks with you. Thank you, and that's the end of the video.